Everybody, this is Rydo, and we're back to Hearthstone. Today is Wednesday, July 10th, and apparently we're having the Fire Festival again. There was really no advertisement for this at all, and they really need to change the name because the FYRE Fire Festival was, from what I generally understand, a huge scam that cost a bunch of rich people a lot of money, and they made at least 2 documentaries about it, one pro it, one against it. So that might explain the lack of advertisement, but also the fact that Activision Blizzard is just out of money and falling apart at the seams might be an example of that. Now, because they've given us this special 200 gold boost for playing 3 games, we probably sort of kind of missed out on a daily quest, but I didn't know this was happening. Like, I follow Hearthstone on Twitter. I follow this stuff somewhat well, so they really didn't announce this. Now, arguably, this might have happened at the exact same point in time last year. So I re-rolled a 60 for a 50. That wasn't helpful. So we need to just, in general, try and get victories with Mage or Shaman. And we have new Tavern Brawls this week. So we'll start again with the Americas account. Delirium crashed into Blackrock Mountain. Take control of an evil boss in dungeon crawl your way out. How fast can you beat Blackrock Mountain? So it seems like we're doing a 8 challenge. Geez, if you have other daily quests you need to do, you're gonna get screwed here. Alright, so my choice are play as, this is a mage I believe, so I'll take that. But you could play as a paladin or a rogue or a druid also. So, okay. Now, I'm not going to sugarcoat it much. I've done very, very little in between Monday and Wednesday. I'm watching for the first time the HBO series 6 Feet Under, which if you just never pay for HBO, there's probably a decent collection of series that now are available on Amazon Prime, or maybe even a few of them are on Netflix, but I think it's mostly on Amazon Prime. So that's what I've been doing as far as watching TV, and then I've did schedule 1 game. So I did about 30 schedules, which sounds like a lot, but it really isn't a lot.
It's a science.
If I could motivate myself to do this paperwork, I would probably be able to do 120 schedules, but it is so tedious, so much clicks, and it's really just not in my skill set, frankly. It's like, there's paperwork stuff, and this is pretty much all of what happens in school, and none of it works for me. It really doesn't. I don't want to do paperwork ever. I want my hands on something. I want to, since I was traditionally an IT person, I wanted my hands on a keyboard, typing, programming, creating something, which was different than following a strict procedural. It's way more creative. But anything that had to do with the English language, as far as writing stories, which they added the Writing Across America initiative in schools, and that drives me crazy, and I just would not do it. It's just not something that my brain wanted to work around. But yeah, any kind of paperwork or something was always a nightmare, to the point where I just like, yeah, forget it. I'm not gonna do it. I'll take the 0 on that. It's frankly, I should have failed out of a lot more classes than I did. I don't think I actually failed out of any of them. Mostly, I think, because the schools and teachers wanted to get rid of me. So I'm having this repeated issue of whenever it's super easy for me to sit in front of a microphone and talk, but when it comes to taking that footage and playing video games and turning that into, alright, now I've got to put the title in the tag, put it into different playlists, and schedule all of that. That's the nightmare. It's several months after I've recorded the entire series that I run into having to do that, and I'm so far behind. And frankly, if I could afford to hire a secretary of sort, or producer of sort, maybe, I don't know what the proper term I would give there. It really depends on what other things they would do. This is interesting, but I'm gonna lose. Wow. So the question, I guess,
I need mana.
Would be, what do I need to do to get the pack here? Do I have to actually win, or do I just have to play? Because frankly, I think if this Tavern Brawl really is just built around the idea that I need to play. Yeah, I've lost. I've lost either because I've just not been paying enough attention, which is true, or because this is going to be a nightmare scenario of just really, really hard runs. Like, that is pathetic. That is completely pathetic. 4 victories this week. Oh my goodness. And it's a pack for the next expansion that's coming out at some time in August. So they're building hype up for something that is going to happen in August. So yeah. Now, as a person who programs, there is a macro software that I had to schedule videos. It just doesn't work consistently. The problem, in part, is the way YouTube's website is programmed. It's programmed in a very bad way. It's not using like HTML5, and it's using a lot of for lack of a better term, JavaScript-like programming, where things are very complicated and there's a lot of CSS style sheets, and it's designed to look pretty when in actuality the video manager should be a very basic, simplistic form with just everything you need to put on one page. The fact that you're clicking from one link to another link when you're scheduling things, you go to what is effectively 3 pages to schedule things. If you just want to do what I do basically, it probably should be closer to 4 pages if I was doing a little bit more. And certainly I could see some people going even further with it. So you have this problem of I can almost automate it, but then the automation software is not good enough, it's not consistent enough to make it worth doing that. And on top of that, you have issues of the let's see. Just make another copy of that, I guess. You have issues of the YouTube Studio Beta coming out, and the YouTube Studio Beta should be the thing I would program a new macro program to run on top of it, but the YouTube Studio Beta program is missing at least one key feature that makes that impossible. So you're kind of just I'm always in this catch-22 where I've got this ton of scheduling I need to do. I don't really want to do it. It's not a pleasant experience in any way. Every nerve ending in my brain is telling me, run away, don't do this, I don't want to do this. And in honesty, I've kind of learned to listen to that feeling. As someone who has ignored that feeling, the run away, I don't want to do this, give up feeling. As somebody who has ignored that for some scenarios for way too long, it's something that now I kind of proudly try to embrace. Of course, I can't really do that with my own YouTube channel. I have to get this work done until I can pay somebody else to do it. Which, honestly, if I was paying somebody else to do it, they'd be getting a pretty decent and easy job too, if it is something that just suits them. And it is really just a statement that I would never succeed in any kind of job that had me in front of a computer just moving files and pushing paper around or typing things like that. Unless it was like, I think even if it was an incredibly small amount of work, because there definitely have been jobs I've seen or heard about where you're sitting in front of a computer and you do 5 minutes of work and then spend the rest of the 7 hours and 55 minutes of your day browsing the internet.
Job's done.
But even at that, the 5 minutes of work would probably be more than I'd be willing to do. And it really just depends. It is, I think, a lot more about how YouTube's website is just terrible than anything else. The fact, like I scheduled it, it takes like 7 minutes to schedule one video, and that's way too long. It really is, because if I was programming it, and this is what's always in the back of my head, is if I was programming this thing, I would have totally have been able to get it down to about 3 seconds, because you could easily have a comma separated value file of just default settings for certain videos, and drag a video on the video library into a folder and say, alright, when this video goes into this folder, it's added automatically to the playlist of Hearthstone videos. We're going to label it as Hearthstone and then the next episode number. We know what the next episode number is because that's a simplistic thing a computer could easily calculate. And we know what the tags are because the tags are always the same. We know what the the schedule is because we can easily be told we want this to air every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at this specific time. These are all very simplistic things that don't need see, this description here for the living bomb is bad. On someone's turn, deal 5 damage to all of your stuff. That is terrible. Alright, well then silence him and make a copy. So yeah, it really is YouTube's fault, and they're making the same mistake over again with the YouTube Studio beta. Is they're just trying to make it look prettier in some kind of vain, stupid effort that's going to make people like YouTube more. And while there have been complaints certainly about YouTube and in general, the complaints I don't think really are going to be centered around the fact that the interface is not pretty. It's not user friendly when you make things pretty. That is why you often will see, like in banks and such, you don't have the prettiest interfaces. You have things that look like Windows 3.1. Jeez. Well, how are we gonna do this? I don't think victories are even counting, so let's just come over here and play a regular old ranked game with the mage. As ridiculous as that might be, and then we'll jump back into this tavern brawl because this tavern brawl is sucking butt to get colorful language. It is not good. And we really don't have a ton of news today, although we do have
you asked for it.
Have a bit of news. We're starting to see news. We're starting to begin to see the end of the tunnel of the summer drought of video games. But yeah, that conversation is really just a long conversation of me going, please, oh please God, somebody offer to do my scheduling and be my producer because I hate scheduling this crap. And if I was going to like hire an artist, I think frankly, unless the artist can prove to me they're actually spending a considerable amount, and I'm not wouldn't ask for a lot. I'd be like, if you can prove to me you really spent 4 hours making all the thumbnails for these videos, and then that's fine. But otherwise, I think I would force an artist to be the artist slash producer slash scheduler of videos, because it's just something I hate so much, and there's a way to be a nice boss about that, I think, where you just tell them straight up, look, I hate this takes me forever, I'm looking for somebody to replace me. Well, I think I've actually lost already. Alright. But yeah. Scheduling video sucks. And I imagine it probably isn't as big of a deal for other YouTubers. because other YouTubers are doing a very different thing than video game YouTubers are doing, and even compared to most other video game YouTubers, I'm the only one that really breaks up entire long plays into into episodic shorter length videos. Whereas Twitch streamers, they really don't, Twitch doesn't really have as many things, and because of that, Twitch really doesn't have tags or any kind of discoverability when the video is pre-recorded. So you just jump into live streaming, and if people watch you, great. If they don't watch you while you're live streaming, you're probably never going to be seen at all.
Precision.
So yeah, there's a different playing field. Like on YouTube, your videos are competing against every other video on YouTube, regardless of whether they're the same game, whether it's a video game at all. Whereas on Twitch, you're really only competing with who else is on live playing that specific game. And that, in part, has been the reason why I haven't really been a huge adopter of the Twitch streaming and such. It doesn't seem to me like Twitch streamers in average are as successful as YouTube content creators. It really doesn't. I've seen a top 1% of Twitch streamers take almost all the views on Twitch, and everybody else being left with scraps. And that certainly doesn't get helped any when you see instances of the body painters and the people just chatting on Twitch, which starts to eat into an already pretty small market. And sure, I could just live stream all my footage directly to YouTube and not label any of it, or not care about any of the labels, but the initial intention of doing this channel was to, in part, have some income coming in passively after I either got a different job or retired or whatever. So I'm thinking, like, even 30-40 years from now, I'd like my videos to be relevant enough to still get a few views and still have a little bit of money coming in, although at some point my channel needs to actually be successful for those type of things to happen. And certainly we haven't gotten to that point yet. And see, the problem here is that I can kind of ignore scheduling videos for a brief time, but every distraction I pick and try is just putting it off. I have to schedule all these videos before I can really start thinking about what I'm going to record around November, for November, and we're still not ahead as much as I would like. Like, the 2 time slots that we were doing up until October probably are coming back in November, although I think we may be moving the time slots to a what would I call it? I'm probably gonna move the time slots to a different point, an earlier time. Doing it so late in the evening, having videos come out so late in the evening hasn't worked, so it's probably just time for a change in general. And I'm thinking maybe we'll get away from the 45s I don't think my channel is pulling any views extra because things are airing at 45 minutes on the hour. So also the idea of the notifications coming out more often if you move the things around has proven to be total BS, really. Notifications are not coming out because YouTube doesn't want notifications to go out. They are just running an algorithm basically to say how many times can we get away with accidentally not releasing the notifications so that without pissing off too many people. Because I know I've done everything. I know I've clicked the bell right on my own channel, and I still do not get notifications. Notifications didn't go out for this live stream, for instance. And that doesn't have, I think, anything to do with the time. I think it's YouTube being YouTube. Let's see. But yeah, I need to figure out what I'm gonna do for November. I need to reboot my computer and see if the fix that might fix Lego games and Resident Evil 4 worked. If it does, then I'm not gonna particularly go through.
Maybe. No.
I don't think I'm gonna go through playing any other Lego games, but I will almost certainly go through and play Resident Evil 4 if that works. Which that will be a little weird if I play a Resident Evil game in November, the month right after I've done all the horror games. That being said, I don't find Resident Evil 4 to be one of those horror games that really justifies. It's more of an action horror game where you shoot zombies, and those type of games, they're so frequent that wouldn't really make sense to eliminate them. Let's see, 8, 16, 24. I think I have enough here to win.
Arena's full. Beat it.
So yeah, it would be nice to find out that that was the case. So what do I need now? I need one more victory, which we could either stick with the mage or we could go with the paladin. I don't even know if the paladin is the one that's winning the most nowadays. Let's give it a try and get one more victory, and then I suppose we're gonna need to focus on seeing what we can do with the tavern brawls. And we should probably just start getting the news done. This really is an instance where I want to finish the stream early because it's short on news, more than because I want to actually do anything else. Like, I would kind of want to stretch out and play more Hearthstone instead of having to schedule the videos. But yeah. Really, there's no getting around it, unfortunately. So we have an article here from Komatsu. The Grisaya trilogy for Switch launches November 7th in Japan. This is, I think, visual novels. Yes. Okay. And we'll have some bigger stories when we get to them, but I'm just going to go through these in order. Let's see. Gamatsu has an article here. 13 a.m. games, which is an odd name since there would be no 13 a.m. That'd be like 1 a.m. Well, no, it would be 1 p.m. actually. 13 a.m. Announces a couch co-op kaiju brawler, Dawn of Monsters, which I don't know how much couch co-op actually happens, but if they put a single player mode in it and it was a kaiju battling game, that might work. It's due out for 2020 on unannounced platforms. If it's couch co-op, I wouldn't be surprised if it's a Stadia game, because that's where this might really work its way down, is if you have Google Stadia, you might see an increase in couch versus or couch co-op happening, just as a way of showing off that Stadia can handle that. But I think there'd probably only be a small amount of games that came out like that as kind of showpieces, and eventually they would get back to just more realistic online multiplayer, online co-op style games. We have a game here on Steam called Planaris 2 Plus. This looks like a Tetris where you just use a mouse to drag the pieces. But it also looks like a single screen Unity game with no score and no timer and just nothing here at all. It feels like there might be some kind of timer or something happening, but yeah, this game is missing the basic elements that would even make it a decent Tetris clone, in my opinion. Unless I'm just missing something here. And if I'm missing something here, somebody's gonna have to tell me, because I'm not gonna put this on the follow list. It's $4.49 discounted, English only. Odd, it's English only too. Like, this doesn't really strike me as a game that needed to be English only. You could have pretty easily translated it, it looks like, into any other language. So we've got this.
For justice.
And this. Next, we have a game on Steam here called Stupid Bat, which is just Flappy Bird with a different name on it, being ported to Steam for no reason. Or I don't know if this really is being ported. This may have been programmed. 99 cents, no discount. Don't really need to look any further than that. Flappy Bird as a game itself was not good. It only got popular, I'm pretty sure, because somebody like PewDiePie played it. I can't imagine for a second that people really would have had any interest in playing the game
For justice.
for very long.
Job's done.
For had it not been made a fad/meme. Next, we have a game here called Soccer Kid, which looks like an NES game. It looks like a real NES game in the fact that the resolution is really, really small and pixely. Now, here's the problem with these screenshots. It looks to me like this is just fake screenshots, that they've got a asset they either made or pre-bought with a kid with a soccer ball in front of them, and that kid with the soccer ball does not move, does not animate anywhere. He's always in the center of the screen and the background is changing. He's not showing any ability to jump or move or anything like that. And this cutscene, this video, does not inspire anything better than that, because he's got the soccer ball and he's kicking it to get collectibles. Yeah, there's nothing here. This does kind of feel like a game that had it come out during the NES era time would have been one of those bad NES games, but that's really all you can say about it. Yeah, this probably, if I was to guess, is some kind of Indian or Chinese game that in a different market where everybody has these Famicom NES emulators systems, programming to that level of technology would make sense. Anyways, this is $3.99 discounted, and that is way too expensive. English only, so yeah, I have no idea what's going on with this game, but I definitely can tell there's no reason why it would
Let me think.
be allowed to be on the
Reporting for duty.
Job done.
follow list. And I think we're gonna rather quickly go through all the games and say the exact same thing. The one he wanted to die survived. So we get a win streak bonus. We get up to rank 15. And we get that done. And see, if I didn't have this tavern brawl to do, I would have just be done with it today. Alright. Win 4 victories in this week, so here, we'll just, I guess we'll just try something different. Take the druid deck, that's probably a decent concept. And we'll try that. Next we have a game on Steam, We Become What We Behold. This looks almost like a comic book style game. They're calling it a point and click game. So it seems like it's almost a society simulator where you take pictures of people and on random they have different attributes. But I don't know what particularly that would end up in. You have some square heads and some round heads. But I don't see how there's really a game here. Seriously, $1.99. It's a game about news cycles, vicious cycles, and infinite cycles. English only. I don't think there's a game here. And inherently, you run into all these games with social messages, but if there's no game, there's no game. There's nothing to do. There's 2 videos here, and both of these videos seem to show nothing interesting or worth playing. So We Become What We Behold, yeah, just not going to the follow list. Oh, and since I'm playing against a robot character in this tavern brawl, I'll never get a timer. So I'll just sit here forever if I don't play, which I guess is fine. We don't really need to hear the rope burning non-stop. Next we have a game on Steam, Kingdom Wars 2 Definitive Edition. So it's already mostly positive. It's a medieval fantasy simulation strategy game. Real-time strategy, if I was to guess. It looks visually polished enough, although for 2019, maybe depending on how much the camera actually zooms in when you're playing, the graphics might be a little bit bad. The problem, I think, is this swoop-in video actually is not an accurate depiction of what you're actually going to see. I think you're going to have a top-down perspective like all real-time strategies, or almost all of them. So this doesn't look bad. No. I'll put this on the follow list. It's $16.99 discounted. Supports several languages and full audio in German and English. That being said, I don't know why I'd really want to play this real-time strategy versus playing like Ages of Empires or Command and Conquer, which I think I already own Command and Conquer, or some of the ones that are the ones on Steam. So it gets into a question of just which is more relevant.
Mind if I roll knee?
Now, it has been, I guess, a couple days since Anime Expo happened, and it's been about 2 weeks since E3 happened. Now, my thought is, if you were going to start a new company, a new studio, video game studio, you might wait 2 weeks after E3 so it doesn't get drowned out by E3, or you might wait 2 weeks after E3 because there's simply a issue of it taking that long for the paperwork to get cleared, and there might be instances where as soon as you file paperwork about starting a new company, it becomes public knowledge, thus people might get word of it and it might get leaked. Regardless of the reasons, it seems like several companies have been formed. Several new video game studios have been formed, and my only guess here is this is because conversations and a little bit of cronyism happened at E3, and perhaps this also means that some people were secretly told that they are going to be let go if they don't leave, or at least given that impression. I had said in the past that it seemed a little strange that you didn't see a lot of people get new jobs or move around during E3, because that would be when all of this is. I also want to point out that I have been making an assumption in my mind that was inaccurate, that E3 was happening in Las Vegas. I probably mentioned it offhandedly once or twice. E3 has, for the most part, always been at the Los Angeles Convention Center, not in Las Vegas. So it's been LA, California, not Las Vegas, Nevada. I was simply confusing it with CES and the predecessor, which goes to show I've not been paying as much attention to it as probably should. So, yeah. I don't even know if there is a benefit to beating all 8 of these bosses in this tavern brawl, unless I have to get 4 victories, in the sense that I have to do each hero against 8 bosses. That would be a nightmare. If that's the case, I am going to throw a fit. Well, that's enough setup though. Gamasutra has an article. Smite and Paladins developer Hi-Rez has opened its first UK studio. So the developer of Smite has made a new studio in the UK called Redbeard Games, which, okay, it's a weird point right now to make a new studio in the UK, as Brexit is a big question hanging over everybody's head. But I guess they probably were already into it. So the article goes on. Hi-Rez made a name for itself developing free-to-play games for mobile consoles and PCs. The company has offices in the United States in Atlanta and China in Shenzhen. So they're just trying to make more mobile games, I imagine, and just be in more markets. that will not be the last story like that, though. In fact, it's pretty much these are the stories for the rest of today.
What a tragedy!
Did you bring some fish?
I want to play this next turn, then I'll play this. Gamma Sutra has an article. Former Panic Button development director opens a new studio called Enduring Games. This is just past the 4th of July weekend. There really isn't any other reason why you would be announcing this information right now. As far as I know, I don't think this is too close to the beginning of a new quarter, or why that would really matter at all in starting a new company.
Job done.
But alright. So the former Panic Button general manager and development director Adam Crichton has established a new studio in Austin, Texas, which I'm about 50-50 on my faith in Austin, Texas location video game studios. I suppose being in Texas, you are less likely to have any kind of unionization succeed. Sure. And there is a slowly growing pool of talent in Austin, Texas. And Austin in Texas is about as liberal and as close to California as you're going to get in Texas. But Austin, Texas, as I understand it, is pretty expensive. Probably not as expensive as California, and it doesn't have that much of a pull. But I guess that's what you're gonna get, is that you're gonna get video game companies that are either gonna be in like China, the UK, maybe some other European countries, like Paris. You're gonna get something in California or New York, or you're gonna get something in Austin, Texas, and then every other area is pretty much blacklisted because there's just not enough of a desire. There's some snobbishness, certainly, in where these companies get established. And it would be actually rather interesting to hear people's direct explanation as to why did you choose to make your company happen here. I think particularly in Austin, Texas's case, though, you're going to be dealing with a city that probably taxes pretty high and doesn't really understand video games or care about video games, so they're not likely to give a huge amount of tax breaks. Let's see. The LinkedIn profile for Adam Crichton says that the platform, the company Enduring Games will focus on high-end co-development, platform retargets, and new original properties for upcoming console hardware and business models. Which is to say, most of what he's planning on doing is porting games to other consoles. And let's see. Panic Button previously had several high-profile projects, including the Switch ports of Doom, which it was a bit of a miracle that worked at all, but also the Switch ports of Doom were not amazingly
Who knows what secrets will uncover?
Double pump Azarano, extra starware, high mountain ice room for mana spice coming right up.
What does this do? This is a Battlecry minion. So why did that not work? I have no idea why that didn't work. Like, nothing is working here with this card. Add a copy of each of your other Battlecry minions to your hand. This was a Battlecry minion. Should have gotten 2 copies of that, a copy of it, but I didn't. And that should have triggered twice, and it didn't happen. That's crazy. Yeah, Panic Button also did the Switch port of Wolfenstein 2 and Rocket League, both of which worked well enough, I suppose, but also Switch ports of games are not even really being expected to be that good in quality, so yeah. Now, the real question that a good journalist with resources would ask is they would try to get some comment or get some off-the-record sources from Panic Button employees as to why did this guy leave and start his own company to do the exact same thing his old company was doing. Because that seems like that would be the case, and the question to ask.
Name, please?
Yeah, yes.
Because this story could have been written very differently if it was just Panic Button starts a new office in Austin, Texas, because Panic Button is set in like California or some other area, and this was just a case of Adam Crichton moving to another area and they didn't want to lose him. Instead, it's a story of he left, or they asked him to leave, and thus he's making someone who pretty much is a direct competitor. And I would say ports of games you don't make is not a good. It's not great. Although perhaps you run into less crunch when you're just porting the Switch version of Doom than the people who are going to have to make the original version of Doom. So it might be better in that way, but it very well may be the exact opposite of that. But just like Telltale, if you don't own the property that deal 1 damage to the enemy hero for each that died this turn. Interesting.
Job done.
So basically this guy is going to try and kill me very quickly.
You shinies.
So I have to kind of stagger this stuff as much as possible because he's just going to do 1 damage each time. Yeah, I think this week on this Tavern Brawl, I'm not going to actually succeed at anything. I don't think I'm going to get any victories at all. Alright. And that's pretty much all I can do.
Done.
That's gonna do 2, 4. Yeah, just like Telltale though, if you're not making your own intellectual property, your company has a major problem there. It's not going to succeed in the long run. Alright. So let's try this again. Add a copy of each of your other battlecry minions to your hand. Oh, so maybe what I need to do is put the other battlecry minions on the field first, and then it'll take those and put them back here. Ah, I see. I see what I did wrong. So once all of these guys are out of the field, he'll just summon some more, won't he? Alright. Well then, let's do
Who
this.
knows what secrets will uncover?
Name, please.
Do that. Moving on to the next story, Gamma Sutra has an article. Cuphead has sold 4 million copies, which is a lot of copies, and has a Netflix adaptation on the way. No really explanation as far as what this Netflix cartoon is going to be, other than I've heard it said it's not going to be a kid's cartoon, which I don't know what it is, really. It doesn't make a lot of sense because Cuphead's story is completely razor thin. It's just defeating bosses to get soul contracts to then fighting the devil. I don't know how you don't. Well, you make probably a 30-minute to an hour-long Betty Boop style cartoon around that, if I was to guess, and tell the story as it were. There's a decent number of enemies, so if you tried to have just an episode per enemy, you could go 12 episodes, but I wouldn't be surprised if you would do just like 4 episodes and have multiple enemies, or your selection of enemies. It would almost make sense if it was like a new music thing, where there's it's a musical song that's playing over at the entirety of the episode. The episode's only like 15 minutes, and it's just a bad guy singing about their life. The whole idea though is crazy, and it really is something that, if it weren't for the fact that Netflix is paying for it, I would clearly say, well, yeah, they probably signed the option for this, but this is never gonna finish. It's never gonna see the light of day.
Hagatha versus Archimedes.
But it also
Hear your heart.
makes me feel like Studio
press your
Madhead,
luck.
or what is it? It's the MDHR. Yeah, it feels like that studio is a one-trick pony, and they're very quickly embracing the concept of being a one-trick pony. This is the same thing I thought with the DLC too, is that they should have moved on to doing their next thing, but now they're owned by Microsoft, so this might really be just more of a case of Microsoft said this thing is happening whether you like it or not, and that also might be the case. Alright, so whenever your opponent plays cards, it gains an attack. So I could destroy it, but just not play any cards. Which either one works fine for me. Inherently, video games to other media normally fail pretty miserably. They normally do. So my opinion or my thought there is that this is going to be a case where the Cuphead show is going to be pretty terrible. Even if it was something in the style of the Super Mario Bros. Show, the Super Mario Bros. Show cartoon only is good because people have nostalgia for it. Otherwise, anyone in their right mind would realize that it's actually total garbage. And there's the weapon destroyed. Yeah, I can't imagine Cuphead working, but as a game it works. Although, in all fairness, if Cuphead tried to have more story and more animation, it very well might have failed. So that is a consideration to take. Also, is that you might very well have had a very different experience with Cuphead had it had 2 or 3 times as many enemies.
Sweet treat for shrunken heads.
Just push this up, I guess. I don't know what let me use this hero power twice. Well, I guess I won't complain. Alright, let's see, what's the next thing we've got? Gamatsu has an article here. Chroma Squad is coming to the Switch soon. Chroma Squad first launched on PC. I think Chroma Squad is... Well, apparently I don't know what it is. They're calling it a tactical RPG combat game. I thought it was a very, very different game. Let's go to the Steam page and see if we can get some more information on it. This is one of these games that has a video not really showing what the game is. I'm probably overlooked this game, taking note that it came out on April 30th, 2015. Yeah. Does that mean inherently this is a good game? Probably not. But I'll put it on the follow list. Oh wait, or I'll just own it already. I guess I should probably think about covering Chroma Squad then if it's coming to the Switch. This might be an instance of a game that probably isn't that good still, but since I already own it, and I don't know why I already own it, I may have gotten it for free. Might as well cover it. Let's see. This and that and that.
My work is paramount. Leave me alone.
Let's see. YouTube, we'll talk about this just since I'm a YouTube creator real quickly, is making it when people put out manual claims that they have to actually say the time zone. Now, it is, I think, worth mentioning that people have been abusing the time spot a lot before this point, though. So it doesn't likely change too much. because
What do we have here?
if you are somebody in a different country where it is too difficult or too expensive to hunt them down and sue them because they violated the DMCA, and they are filing spurious, false manual DMCA claims, they can still put any time they want. And I have seen instances where people have claimed the entirety of the video, and I think we'll very quickly see in manual claims people are going to just claim from the 0 second to the end, and YouTube has said nothing along the lines of, oh well, we're going to take care of those false claims this way or that way. They've got nothing in place to stop people from making manual claims in their content ID system, which they could control that if they wanted to, but they don't want to. So YouTube is throwing a bone out, trying to get some good press for doing something that they should have done a long time ago, and something that makes complete and total sense.
Name, please.
And I guess I could continuously get more of these guys on the field. So yeah, copyright owners now must provide timestamps for exactly what part of the video is manually being claimed. You can use the editing tool to mute all the sounds if they claim it when a claimed song plays, replace the song, or trim out the content. Now, how does any of this work when they claim the video? I don't know. Probably not too well. The last stream I had, I showed a little too much of the Code Vein trailer, which is a teaser trailer and cannot be copyrighted, and Capcom of Japan does not care about US copyright law or anything like that, so they're jerks and they claimed that video. And I can dispute it, and I'm sure there's a 50-50 chance that they would uphold the dispute, and YouTube will never step in and go, wait a minute, this was a trailer, you can't claim a trailer, or wait a minute, this guy's talking over this video the whole time, or in this case it was in a tiny video on a web page. But yeah, that's what happens. Alright, so as far as Tavern Brawls are happening this week, once we get the 4 victories to get the pack, that's it for me. I'm not going to waste my time trying to do this Blackrock Mountain Tavern Brawl all the way to the end, because it is a huge waste of time. So we need to move over to the European account. And we were doing good about breaking up recordings, and we're now probably not going to do any of that for a while because of that. Regardless of what little thing YouTube throws, the attitude is the problem at YouTube at this point. It's not the actions. Some of their actions are bad and could be easily fixed, sure, but it's the bad attitude, it's the anti-content creator stance that they've taken, it's the pro-censorship stance that they are increasingly taking that's the problem. And I don't see how you don't fix that. I don't see how you fix that without Susan Wojcicki coming out and saying something, saying like, I've thought some things through and I've had a change of heart completely, and I'm running this business completely different now, which would probably never happen and wouldn't be believed even if it was said. So she's got to just step down and take one for the team, even if it really isn't her fault, and it very possibly really isn't her fault. It could be that Susan Wojcicki is actually a very reasonable, secretly reasonable person, and she's just surrounded by a bunch of flaming SJW idiots. See, we need a mage and shaman victory. We need paladin, 3 paladin and warrior victories. And we're not even going to be doing the tavern brawl today. We'll be doing that on Friday. So, like, mage and shaman victory to start with, or paladin and warrior. Let's go with paladin. We're going pretty heavily on paladin and warrior games. Let's see. Twitch support put out a notification that they've changed the default duration for slow mode from 30 seconds down to from 120 seconds. So slow mode is now faster. By default, you can change these options if you want. But yeah. Let's see, and then Twitch in general seems to every week. July 3rd they put out a tweet. We're investigating the issue impacting access to the site. We're very sorry for the trouble and we'll keep you updated. And then the same day we're recovering from that issue. So it seems like very much Twitch has a problem on a weekly basis of streaming, where YouTube at least doesn't admit that that happens. And if something does go down on YouTube, they usually say, well, it only affected a small percentage of the viewers that are watching YouTube. So Twitch is still a mess. I think a lot of that really just has to do with the Amazon backend on it. I just don't think it's as well programmed and robust as Google's backend servers. It wouldn't be incredibly surprising, although it would be a little groundbreaking, if Twitch switched from Amazon backend server technology to Microsoft backend server technology. So from AWS, Amazon Warehouse to Microsoft Azure. Moving on, we have a game here on Steam called Sinners, and it looks like an RPG Maker black and white game, which not only is that unappealing because it's tiny screens and black and white, but also it's unappealing because it's an RPG Maker game. They want $5.99 with no discount on this game, and it's English and German. Even if the story was great around something like this, I don't think it gains enough relevancy for just how bad it looks that a normal person would be reasonably willing to play it. There probably are some great RPG Maker stories out there that just aren't worth looking at, because that's the thing, is you have to, in a video game, look at all times at the graphics. That's what makes Hearthstone work so well. If this was just an Excel spreadsheet of numbers, which is basically all it is, numbers and effects, it would be very ugly and boring. But because they've got that money to spend to put in the fancy graphics and sound effects, it can catch people's attention for a little bit longer. Although 5 years into playing the game, it's lost mine. Next, we have a game on Steam called Lost Daughter, which is tagged as an adventure game, but it might be in the asset flip game, frankly. This really looks like this is just an asset flip game. Yeah. This is the movie Taken just being ripped off. It's $13.49 discounted English only. Yeah. This is Taken. This is Liam Neeson. He lost his daughter. You're going to run around an asset flip open world, shooting at things. So Lost Daughter's not making it to the fall list. The Tech Raptor has an article here, and this might be a little bit old. Steam Grand Prix giveaway extended, 5,000 additional games given away. I did not get a game at all. Here it says the Grand Prix ended July 7th. It said it ended July 9th. I'm fairly certain. And it ended like as soon as it hit 12:01 July 9th. Like the second it was July 9th. So, yeah, another 5,000 users would be randomly selected from any group, so it didn't matter if you were first or second or third. Picking turtle was the strategy. I don't think I was wrong with that. It gave me the highest odds of winning of winning a new game, but I didn't win, so if 5,000 extra games were given away, let's assume that up until that point 25,000 were given away in total. Let's assume that that translated into 30,000 games were given away. There must have been 300,000. There probably closer to 9 million people that must have been included, because the odds just seem so high that you would not win a game, considering I'm not really hearing of anybody that did. So yeah, this is the problem of doing giveaways, is you have inherently more losers than you do winners in any scenario like this. So you really shouldn't do it. It would have been better, frankly, if everybody had gotten a coupon. Like everybody on Team Tortoise, every time I placed in second place, had I gotten a coupon for $1 off, or in second place gets $2 off, and first place gets $5 off your next purchase, that would be great. It's not amazing, but it would work a little bit better, and then you could say some random grand prizes could be given away in general. But everybody that was on a winning team should have won something. I didn't even get a badge. Like, we should have all been given badges, like a Team Corgi badge if you're on Team Corgi, or a Team or Grand Prix badge. There was that in general, but we didn't get any kind of free background art or anything.
Access denied.
So really just a massive failure as a promotion. That's where things like the free Coca-Colas under the bottle cap,
Let me light the way.
back when they were doing that in the 80s and 90s, that was such a great thing, because you really had like a 1 in 5 odds of getting another free Coca-Cola, and people were winning just another Coke every week or so. Just meanwhile, they were addicting themselves to caffeine like crazy. It worked really, really well. We got several people in the chat saying, "Hey man, hey, hi. Did you guys saw the card's image changes?" And then they go, "Of the succubus, 1 hurt." So they're talking about the censorship in the chat, I suppose, of the cards. So the succubus has been completely removed and changed to like the Fellspawn or something is the name of it. It's stupid. It looks dumb. A lot of the other changes are not amazingly different changes. They are simply designed to remove blood or violence or cleavage or showing buttocks in a couple of cases. Secret Keepers outfits and such changed a little bit. There was a lot of speculation that it was because of the China market, and they said directly that it has nothing to do with them being in the Chinese market. Hearthstone has been in the Chinese market for a long time, so it would be a little questionable to see that the new Chinese censorship board told them they had to censor it even more. It could have happened, certainly, but my feeling is it's almost certainly a case of Blizzard laid off basically most of the Hearthstone team. It feels like a significant portion of the Hearthstone team. They lost their main artist person. They brought in this new artist person, and they're a bit of an SJW, and they wanted the changes. The only other theory I could possibly have is that they are trying to go not in the Chinese market, but into a Middle Eastern market under like Islamic style laws. But even that doesn't really make sense or pass scrutiny, because you wouldn't change the art of of a female character like Secret Keeper from being in a bikini style armor to being in just a slightly less revealing bikini style armor. You would go on with a full burqa effect and remove all female characters completely, and at that point you're doing so much editing you would just make a special version for the Middle Eastern country, and that doesn't really even make sense, because most Middle Eastern countries, all video games by default are just not welcome, whether they're actually illegal or not. And most people just, like, as China for a long time has been blocking people from playing a lot of games, they just go around it through a VPN if they want to play those games. The changes are dumb, and inherently in any art form, if you make changes to art, people are not going to be happy. Whether it is putting a black underdraw on Tifa from Final Fantasy VII, or removing the boob jiggle in a Dead or Alive beach ball game. Once you make art, you have to eventually abandon that art, and once that art is seen by others, it is owned in part, at least spiritually owned, by the entirety of society, and people don't want their nostalgia and their memories messed with, particularly when there's no good reason. If there was a bit of a good reason, I think people would perhaps forgive it. If Hearthstone had come out and said, actually this artist is suing us and we can't use this art, or we don't have a copyright for this art, that would be one thing. Inherently, for collectible card games too, this is something that has happened and been a problem before in Magic the Gathering like crazy, is the updating of card art for no real reason, or the replacing of a card with a different card that is completely the same. For instance, the Succubus card being completely replaced with a different card that does the exact same attack and effect and has the same amount of health, is something Magic the Gathering people saw for years and years and years. As older generations and older series became blacklisted, Magic the Gathering just got lazier and lazier and would re-release the same card under a different name. It's a bad way to run your business in general, though, to have an artist waste their time making new art for already made content. The artist at Hearthstone and Blizzard should be making content around the new expansion, not redoing things that have already been done. Yep. The chat says Hearthstone is now a child play game. Yeah, it is really dumb. Remove blood. WTF Blizzard, yeah. So people are upset about it. Of course, I'm saying this almost every recording now. Ben Brode was the figurehead, the person that seemed like they were in charge of Hearthstone, and he moved on and made his own company called Second Dinner. And Second Dinner has a contract to make a Marvel game, which will totally be a card game for children, and will almost certainly have no blood or violence, and probably very little lewd or sexually provocative art at all. But I'm totally planning, as soon as that beta happens, to go over to the Second Dinner Marvel card game when it comes out. Now that's not happening, I think, anytime soon, but it's been 5 years in Hearthstone. We've seen what it has had to offer. It's not really done anything new or innovative in a while, and I don't think it's going to get any better. So I'm personally ready to jump ship to a new game and start in the beta in that new game, so that there is a better chance of actually succeeding while still staying as a free-to-play player, instead of mostly getting defeated by pay-to-win players on Hearthstone. Now, I will disagree with the statement, and I get what people are thinking, that now Hearthstone is this kid-friendly child game. It really isn't, though, because it still takes way too long to play a game. It's still way too difficult to win. It's still a game that is totally built around the concept of a 50% win ratio, whereas a kid's game should probably be built around a 90% win ratio. What they would have to do to make Hearthstone an actual kid-friendly game is they'd have to put in a bunch of Exodia-style cards, like from Yu-Gi-Oh!, that win in one turn, that win by random chance, and that really speed up the process and make it easier for somebody who really doesn't know what they're doing to succeed. And if they were to do that, then they lose pretty much all of the support that they've had from major YouTube and Twitch streamers, because the pros that play Hearthstone and are playing Arena and getting into Ranked 1 style victories. I guess I'm going to play Warrior here. I'm going to play Warrior on casual, trying to get victories here. They would totally abandon Hearthstone if you continue to add more random things. They want Hearthstone to be 100% strategy, or at least enough cards that they can play it with 100% strategy, which is incredibly boring. And if you watch enough of the Hearthstone streamers, you can see that they're spending an incredible amount of time and doing the exact same decks over and over again, and the exact same strategies over and over again. But that's what you have to do if you want to win, is you do the boring thing, the safe thing. You don't do the random gambling thing. The Yu-Gi-Oh! Cartoon kind of makes the best of both worlds, in the sense that Yu-Gi-Oh! in the anime cartoon always wins, but he always wins this card game that is so random and so much, has so much PS in it, particularly in the anime, where they were just making the rules as they went along. There's no way that Yugi should have won anywhere as close to as many games as he does, but because he's the hero of the show, he wins because of his magic card of the cards. I always pull the exact card I need, and I always somehow know this new rule that nobody else knows. Which you really can't do that even in a digital card collector game easily. There are some things I think that could be fixed really easily. if they went from a gameplay mode where you had 30 health down to 15, if you reduced your cards down from the 30 to 15, that could speed it up. You could have it as soon as somebody runs out of cards, a coin is flipped and it just determines immediately who wins, or you could have it as soon as somebody runs out of cards, it's a tie and both people win. That would work to increase the win ratio. Even if you added it from a deck of 30 to 60 cards, but as soon as somebody runs out of cards, it's a tie and both players get considered a victory, that would give you an increased win ratio. Because it really sucks to play Hearthstone for 2 or 3 hours and feel like you're barely getting any victories at all. Or in some instances play for several hours and not get any victories at all.
Job's done.
Well, since all these people are on the chat chatting, I might as well do my usual please. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, please subscribe. I'm trying to get to 1,000 subscribers. If you know anybody who you can grab their phone and subscribe via their YouTube account to my channel, please do that too. I really don't even need people to watch, although that would be appreciated. Just trying to get up to 1,000 subscribers right now. And that's the main focus. If you actually do want to watch and like my content, then click the notification bell. And there's a bunch of other links and things down in the description that might interest you.
Job's done.
Let's see. Apparently no song is playing. Let's see if I can fix that. On the secret playlist in the chat. Speaking somewhat of streamers, Gamma Sutra has an article here. League of Legends leads Fortnite as Twitch's most viewed games in 2019. So, League of Legends being an incredibly long game too, there's still a lot of people watching it and having fun with it. I could imagine that a lot of people would bring up League of Legends and just have it run in the background. And then the second biggest is Fortnite, and then the third biggest is just chatting, which shows the amazing problem immediately with Twitch is that Twitch either has to decide, is it going back to being Justin TV where you can stream anything, or is it going to be a video game only channel? Because right now, just chatting is beating everything else by quite a far amount. You go from 372 million views over the year to 269 views for GTA 5, and a lot of these feel like these are things that would be role played or played by big streamers. Dota 2, Apex Legends, Counter-Strike, Overwatch. Hearthstone got 120 million, just slightly below Overwatch. And then World of Warcraft is at the bottom of the list. So yeah, there's not a lot of variety in particular on Twitch. So when I do pre-recorded footage on my channel and I'm playing a game that's either several years old or even a couple years old, even 6 months old, it's a game that absolutely would not get any real views on Twitch.
What shall we hunt?
Let's see. How many bots are in my opponent's deck? Apparently enough. Enough to feel the field. I haven't played this deck, I don't think. Like I wasn't expecting a warrior deck to actually have a chance of winning. These are all hsreplay.net decks, or suggested directly through Hearthstone decks, and as such I haven't gotten around on my European account to play this since I rebuilt them. Alright, next game we have to consider on Steam is called Buoyant, which looks like it is a simplistic, almost Flappy Bird game. It's pretty much all it is. It's just Flappy Bird with some trampoline slash water physics. But it is really just kind of a tapper from the best I can tell. And very generic, just different color backgrounds. It's free, so I guess the price is right. English only, no in-app purchases. So if you wanted to check it out, I guess there's nothing really stopping you, although this does also feel like it's a game that's probably not even worth installing, because the 5 minutes to download and install it would probably be longer than you'd actually want to play it.
Light the fuses!
Let's see what that does.
Somebody order a bomb!
This guy has 22 cards, so he still has a good chance to win if he can pull off some strategy. This is either an article from Game of Sutra that is continuing the story or just restating the story. There's a report that Sony, Microsoft, and Nintendo are considering moving manufacturing out of China. No duh, of course they're considering that as the Chinese tariff threats still loom from the Trump administration. I know I saw a story that Nintendo has in part moved some of the production to Taiwan, which, yeah, it's not really a big issue. There's an update here. Microsoft has issued a statement to CNET rebuking Nikkei's report, stating that the report was inaccurate and does not reflect Microsoft's manufacturing plans in China in any way. Nintendo, meanwhile, has confirmed that it has moved some Switch productions from China to Vietnam. Oh, I thought it said Taiwan, a decision it says made to diversify risks. And I imagine that will be the case kind of consistently, is that we will see companies moving around to diversify risks is a good way to call it. I don't think anybody's going to fully pull out of China. Inherently, I think if you fully pulled out of China, you would get some kind of retaliation from the Chinese government and may not be allowed back in China. So if you fully pulled out of China, you're probably not coming back ever. So people don't want to do that. And as China modernizes more, it becomes more expensive to produce things under those slave wages in China, and it becomes more desirable to move to other countries where the slave wages are still particularly low. So I can see reasons why people have been pulling out of China for years.
I'm
Let's see. Alright, what can we do? We have a rush here. And I like the rush animation here. I guess I haven't seen that before. Rush there. Kill that. And kill that. And then win. Yep. Played 3 games. And we've gotten 1 victory, so let's stick with Warrior. That seemed like a good deal. We are in a situation where it is going to become more pushing a narrative than reporting real news if I covered every story saying that Microsoft, Sony, and Nintendo are thinking about leaving China. It's like, it's really not newsworthy until they do it. And that's the case with most news, is that something's not newsworthy if somebody's thinking about doing something. Something is newsworthy when somebody does something. Actions are what you report in news, not opinions or feelings or thoughts. Unfortunately, news has gotten really bad on the internet, particularly the video game news sector has always been really bad. So they don't really know what should be reported and what shouldn't. So yeah, that is an issue. Yep. And I'm gonna make an effort not to report on that again unless there is actual actions and something worth mentioning.
Let the pain speak to me.
Gamatsu has an article here. Gravity Ghost Deluxe Edition is coming to the PS4 on August 6th. This PlayStation 4 release adds new constellations with 13 challenging levels. I don't know what Gravity Ghost is though. Like, it seems like it's a game I may have ignored. And I could see why I would have ignored it. It looks like something that might have been a little off my radar. But I guess if it's getting new content and it launched on PC January 2015. Yeah, anything 2015 or earlier is probably something before I established my follow list system or really established my wish list very well. So I could imagine that there are a significant number of things I've just am not. I just overlooked. So yeah. Here's Gravity Ghost on Steam. It is rated very positively. It looks like a Gravity style kind of platformer arcadey game. It's probably worth trying out, although at $14.99 that looks really expensive. It is actually on my wish list, so I didn't overlook it. I just haven't gotten around it. So 100 levels, Metacritic of 75. Yeah, looks like it's a gravity-based puzzle game of a pretty good quality. All right. Well, I guess there's really no action I need to take though. If it already was on my wish list, it's just I am being reminded that this thing exists. Sounds like it might be raining like crazy outside of my house, but it doesn't seem like it. Yeah, just heard some thunder. Probably means I should wrap it up. It has been incredibly rainy these past few weeks where I am, and every time I hear it rain, my fear is the power's gonna go out, and if the power goes out, then my internet goes out, so streaming doesn't really work. And I could be recording because I have a battery backup that would give me at least 5 minutes, enough time to wrap up and go, alright, power's just gone out in my house, I'm gonna have to end this episode here. type, I could easily do that, but generally I'm using it as just a mental excuse to take a break and take it easy. So a lot of times I will just say, oh, if it's raining really hard and power does seem to go out pretty frequently, it's a good excuse to not do any recording and not do any work as a YouTuber content creator. Moving on, Gamatsu has an article. The daughter raising simulator Seal Fledge has been announced for Switch and PC. It's due out this fall. Now what's interesting here is there is a whole series of daughter raising simulators called Princess Maker that have been out since the 90s on PC, and it's kind of an anime looking daughter, different daughter each game. So there really hasn't been any competition to it. This looks like it's a probably cheap Chinese game from this animation style, but seeing competition might be interesting, and seeing a daughter raising simulator or a child raising simulator in general is not something you see a lot of. Oh, I actually like this art style as it's 3D and or it's very heavily shadowed, but I'm not sure what the actual game is going to look like. Yeah, it really just looks like this is a visual novel of sorts. And if you think of like The Last of Us, you're kind of raising that girl in The Last of Us, but that's not the main focus. Yeah. Seeing a modern take on this concept also probably changes some things, because I've definitely Princess Maker hasn't really improved too much. I have to play before I run out of time. So yeah, I didn't show all of this trailer, but I generally don't want to show all trailers. Yeah, this looks kind of flat in the animation and not very well drawn, but it does look like it might have some interesting strategic gameplay in here. Like, that being said, it could also be really bad, or it might just be mediocre. I wouldn't be surprised if it's just mediocre. I don't like the animation of the characters though, and it changes to this what you would call chibi art style, but I would call it just like bad art style in general. Inherently, a child raising simulator game is something I think it's something that kids would play when they're young and don't have kids or aren't anywhere close to having kids themselves. I think by the time you do have kids, you are either too busy actually raising those kids to play a game to simulate that again, or you're over the fantasy of having kids and raising kids, and that you will do so much better a job than anyone else you've ever seen raise a child. And it's not realistic at all. If you were going to make a realistic child raising simulator, you would just have it have a randomizer on it where it just throws fits and cries at random times non-stop, and they would make you play for 2 years in which the game would wake you up in reality to drive you crazy, so to either change diapers or feeding, so you never got more than 3 hours of sleep. And inherently, this is the problem with raising children at all, is that by the first 2 years, all parents have literally been driven crazy through sleep deprivation, torture, unintentionally or intentionally inflicted on the parents by the child. So by the time you get to a 2 or 3 year old or a 4 or 5 year old or even a 10-year-old, there's so much groundwork that has been set up for for bad parenting and just frustration to happen, that you can't be a calm, collected, calculating parent. You're just a reactionary parent that is doing their very best. And so a child raising simulator game is not in any way realistic, but that doesn't mean it doesn't deserve to exist. And I could certainly see it being an extension of playing house or playing dolls in the digital format. So yeah, this Seal Fledge, when it comes out in the fall, I'll put it on the fall list. It would be a very interesting game to cover in a counterbalance argument against playing the Princess Maker games. I would still suggest playing the Princess Maker games, either the latest one or I think Princess Maker 2 or 3 is probably the most famous one. Now immediately, if you're familiar with Princess Maker, there was like a code or something that allowed you to make the daughter you're raising naked. It's not a main focus or a part. It is effectively like the hot coffee mod and such that became more of a controversy and more of a focus than it really should have been, because that's not what the game is about. And there is a Japanese only game where you raise a robot boy.
Thanks.
But I don't think it ever got translated over. Or there may be a whole series of them, actually. And I would say The Last of Us would have been an interesting game if you were making some moral choices and raising, I believe her name's Ellie, and then based on how you raised her, you got different endings, which is what you get in Princess Maker. The Walking Dead Telltale games, you kind of are acting, at least you get the feeling that you're acting as a daughter raising simulator with that character, the main character of the Walking Dead series. Unfortunately, as there are so many spin-off games that come out, you eventually start playing as the main character or playing as a character that just interacts briefly with who you would call as the main character in the Walking Dead series. So it lost that feeling after the second game, I would say. Yeah. Pretty much you lose that feeling after the first game, which I think was a huge mistake. And had they just focused on that main character and only that main character, that would have been better. If they had stretched what was the story that was told in The Walking Dead 1 across the length of all 5 of the Walking Dead games, it would have been much more impactful. On the other hand, it might have succeeded. It might have helped Telltale stay in business had they just finished Walking Dead Season 1 and made no more Walking Dead games. That may have been a better move, and then maybe 5-10 years later they come back and revisit it with another game.
Mind if I roll me?
Moving on, we have a game on Steam called Adventures of Isabel Fine, Murder on the Rails. This is tagged as an RPG Maker game, and it looks like an RPG Maker game, which is odd because a game like this, a title like this would inspire me to believe it would have been a point-and-click adventure or a visual novel style game. This game is $9.99. Because it's an RPG Maker game, I'm not really interested in it. Yeah, I don't see anything here. I feel like this art style where it's just like solid blue or solid color is just hiding the fact that they really can't animate anything. And probably these are all pre-bought assets anyways. So it's $9.99, English only. Similar to the game Always Sometimes Monsters, which is an RPG Maker game I did not enjoy at all. And it was kind of highly recommended by Giant Bomb. And clearly I feel like I've been misled by Giant Bomb's recommendations as much as I've been given good recommendations from them. I really should stop listening to their podcast, but I guess the side note on that is their podcasts barely talk about video games anymore either. Although one of the main guys has been missing for 2 podcasts in the last couple of weeks, and I'm starting to suspect that he may have been in the process of leaving the company, which would make sense. They've all been there long enough. Moving on, TechRaptor has an article, Subdivision Infinity DX blast on the consoles and PCs August 8th. This looks like a space game, space battle game. I don't really like space battle games, so I'm not super interested in it. Speaking of space battle games, Eve, after having all of the NPCs attack all of the weakened real player characters, Eve has instituted a new rule where in certain parts of space, group chat is disabled. So this drastically changes the game and probably makes it harder and probably screws the regular players of Eve. I don't know a lot about Eve to really go into detail in that, but clearly they needed to make a change and they wanted it to be a big canonical storyline change. And so I guess in theory the idea here is that the NPCs attacked weaker places and destroyed whatever communication software was in that. I suspect the true reason is because for doing this is in part because the battles were getting so big in Eve and so coordinated that it was dragging down their servers. If you've got thousands and thousands of people chatting and sending chat messages, that's hard to do. The more nefarious tinfoil hat thought would be that maybe chat is getting taken down so that they don't have to moderate chat or flag any like secret messages that are being sent through Eve between spies or terrorist organizations, which honestly, if I was trying to send a secret message that was encoded, sending it through a game like Eve Online, probably better than sending it through Google Gmail. But that's just tinfoil hat speculation on my part. More and more European countries want to expand libel laws and censor what they call hate speech, which inherently you can't believe in the concept of hate speech if you believe in free speech. You just can't. In the United States, the Supreme Court has said there is no exception for what you call hate speech in the free speech. Although it seems like there certainly are some laws where you can do illegal activities and be charged extra because it's classified as a hate crime, which is different than hate speech. Actually saying something is supposed to be protected. That being said, somebody did get arrested for burning a flag, which has been proven time and time again to be illegal on the 4th of July, so who knows? The law and how the law is actually applied and enforced in the United States is not the same thing. And that's not just the US, that's everywhere. Moving on, Gamatsu has an article, The Alliance Alive HD Remaster Unlikely Heroes trailer. So what's the name of this game? NIS America has released a new trailer for the game called the Alliance Alive HD remaster, and the name of the trailer is Unlikely Heroes. NIS is the Disgaea team. Alright, this looks like a JRPG with kind of cutesy chibi characters. This feels like this is probably an HD remaster of a PS Vita game. Let's see. It's coming out for the PS4, Switch, and PC on October 8th in North America, October 10th in Japan, and October 11th in Europe. Weird that it's coming out in America first. But yeah, I'd like to know what the original console this was on, but it probably was just the Vita. Gotta remember to play the game. Let's see, what do I want to do?
Like the music!
Then just end the turn there. TechRaptor has an article here. Volcanic Games announces a top-down action strategy game called Frontline Z or just Z?
Get behind me.
It's called Frontline Z, which is interesting because there was a game published by the creators of Myst just about a month ago that I believe was called Z also, or was it called Ned? Either way, there's definitely some confusion you would have there. Frontline Z is just a frontline. It would be Frontline Z if they were from the United States, zombie-looking game. But a top-down strategy game about zombies doesn't look terrible. This is really just kind of Plants vs. Zombies, except for you're shooting with guns and shooting zombies with the guns. There might be something to this. It was heavily inspired by Flash games like The Last Stand. I'd never heard of that, but I don't particularly play those Flash games.
Defend the gates! To me!
Says there's going to be 14 unique weapons, 12 different American environments. Yeah, it's probably not much of a game, but it'll launch sometime this summer for $9.99. I have been kind of keeping an eye out for the next Plants vs. Zombies. When you think about how Plants vs. Zombies 1 and 2 didn't, like, Plants vs. Zombies was very well received, and then the rest of the Plants vs. Zombies games, which were spin-offs or weird other options, they did not engage people's attentions. There was like a Plants vs. Zombies in 3D that was full of microtransactions, Plants vs. Zombies 2 that was full of microtransactions and had to basically be remade to get people to stop complaining about it.
Your magic shall not save you.
Let's see. So you would have thought it's been a long time. It's probably been 5 to 10 years since Plants vs. Zombies 1 came out. You would have thought somebody would have made something somewhat similar, but I guess not. Moving on, Komatsu has an article, Haven to be released for the PS4, Switch, and PC gameplay trailer. It's from the creators of Fury, which is a game I definitely want to cover. I might actually be pretty bad at, though. It's a boss rush, bullet hell style 3D game. It's somewhat animated like this, although Haven seems to be taking a bit of a softer animation style than even Fury had. Let's see how the actual game looks like. We're gonna actually show something besides just a house. You have 2 minutes and 25 seconds, and the first 10 seconds are just showing backgrounds. So, well, I wasn't expecting that, but... And then it throws to a visual novel thing. They've got this new technology called Live 2D for visual novel characters to look more realistic easily and look like they have motion. So it's weird to see a just low texture 3D characters in the background, and then anytime you want text to see a flat 2D character. Seems like you're going to be running around chasing things, and this might just be a game of tag, or this might be a game of follow the leader. What I'm not seeing is kind of like a fight mechanic or anything else. I have to play though, so we'll come over to this.
Defend the gates!
Didn't play fast enough. Alright. So they, for a second here on the trailer, they show an enemy, and then they immediately jump away from that fight. So I feel like Haven probably is not a fighting game, if I was to guess. They're tagging it as an RPG game. I would say it feels almost like a more of a kind of chase game. Let's see. They're calling it a JRPG. They're saying it's meant to be played solo at its core, but players can play as 2 players. Alright, I'm a little interested in Haven. Probably not amazingly interested in it, but a little.
Save the best for last!
Let's go ahead and take this victory. There we go. We should be close to victory there. Of course, there's not really a lot to say about a game when you just hear about it at the first. You really need to see it come out and see what the final product looks like and the final presentation and advertisements look like. Because, you know, anything could be anything, or it could just get delayed forever and never actually come out, which happens all the time in video games. Speaking of, well, not really speaking, here's a game that nobody should buy. I would say this is the new low-effort asset flip style of game called Save Daddy Trump, which it's just an asset flip game with just a bunch of random garbage added together. It's discounted for $1.19, and it's English only with 14 achievements. They're just hoping that you'll overlook all the obvious signs that this is a garbage game in the hope that you will buy it because you think you're a streamer, and because of that you'll get some views, or you'll get some lols from it if you're not a streamer.
I'm fast and furious!
In your face!
This. This. And this. That. Which ideally would trigger this. And I still didn't move fast enough. I'm trying to get through all the news, and because of that, it's just taking longer. We're not even at the Asian accounts yet. So I think there's a chance here we're not even going to make it to the Asian account at all. Because we've got these daily quests that require victories, and then anytime the daily quests require victories, it becomes way more difficult to get them done. And my power just flickered. So let's try to get through the news. Gamatsu has an article here. Vane for PC launches July 30th, July 23rd. The PC release includes all updates from the PS4 version. Vane, not a particularly well-received game, I think in particular because it was buggy. So there might be a chance that as a game it might be a little bit better on PC. That being said, I think it is kind of also a pretty simplistic walking simulator game. So you probably don't want to play it for very long. It looks cool in the trailer. It looks a lot cooler in the trailer than it actually, from what I hear, plays. But yeah, I'll put it on the follow list, see if people like it. If they do, they'll review it while on Steam, and then I'll have a better understanding. Go ahead and just end this turn here. Let's see. Gamatsu has an article here. Dual Hero Metroidvania Outbuddies has been announced for the PS4, Xbox One, Switch, and PC. Due out first on the PC in Q3 of 2019, which really isn't that long. This looks like it's some retro pixel graphics. For a Metroidvania game, that might be okay, but it's certainly not a good first impression in my mind. Let's see, we can see this announcement trailer. Yeah, it looks like a Metroidvania style game. As somebody who just played Axiom Verge and found it to not be a very well designed Metroidvania, it's in the back of my mind that you can make something look like a good Metroidvania without really showing the map and how many rooms and how many levels there are, and that's the thing that's gonna make it a good or bad Metroidvania style game, is how much actual square footage are you going to cover in a game like that. Because if you're not covering a significant amount of square footage, then you're probably going to have a short, disappointing experience, which is some of what I experienced when playing Axiom Verge. Is that compared to playing Metroid 1 or something like that, it was a little short and a little disappointing. Next we have a game on Steam called Circuitous, I believe is how that's pronounced, which looks like it's a puzzle game where you're trying to get a ball down. I've seen several games sort of like this, although this one's much more colorful. Although I would almost say the colorfulness is a distraction. In fact, a lot of this art feels like it's a distraction around the fact that this is a very simplistic game. And it's from Plugin Digital, a publisher kind of known for not publishing the greatest of games. It's $3.99, English only. I don't see anything here that particularly interests me. I don't think I can comment on this for more than 5 minutes to just say, okay, you probably click one button to make the ring that the ball lands on smaller, and then you use an analog stick to make this move further. Yeah, I don't see anything here. Also, they're using a registered trademark or registered copyright. I think registered trademark would be what that is. But yeah.
Job's done.
I don't like it when I see games like that have copyright and trademark in the title on Steam. It's unnecessary. If you want to claim a copyright or anything, there's places lower down where you could put that kind of information, and you don't really need to claim that. So it just seems overly legal and litigious for no reason. Alright, so we've gotten 2 data quests done on the European account. Let's switch over to the Asian account so we have at least a chance of doing the Asian account, assuming we don't lose power. The stream will just kind of abruptly end if I lose power because my Wi-Fi router does not have a battery backup. I stupidly put my Wi-Fi router in a garage, so it's not air conditioned or cooled, which also means if I were to put a battery backup near it, it wouldn't particularly last very well or do very well in that kind of heat or extreme temperatures in general. We'll be doing this Tavern Brawl on Monday, and we'll be doing the European Tavern Brawl on Friday. So all I need to do is play priest cards, play 3 games, and maybe win a game with Shaman or Warlock. And we'll be fine. Since we're just going to play priest cards, we'll play ranked here. Gamatsu has an article here. Blue Protocol closed alpha test increases user limit near screenshots. This Bandai Namco game Blue Protocol is an online action RPG. It also has a boob slider, at least in Japan, so fans of boob sliders rejoice, although almost certainly that will get taken out if it comes to the rest of the world. Blue Protocol doesn't really mean anything to me, and until it's kind of a success or until it comes to the West, though, there's really not a lot to report there, particularly closed alpha tests. Although it might be worth mentioning that you don't hear a lot of Japanese companies announcing and having closed alpha tests or closed betas or anything like that. That has not been something that they've wanted to do. But it's totally would make sense if they did start doing that, charging people a major extra price to be in the beta. Japanese people are such suckers for getting ripped off in many instances that they probably would fall for that very well, and like Western people are pretty big suckers too when it comes to pre-order now and you get access to the beta shenanigans. Moving on, we have a game on Steam here called Yet Another Hero Story, which is a point-and-click adventure. I am a sucker for point-and-click adventure games. This feels like it is inspired by The Secret of Monkey Island. I like that the camera is zoomed in a little bit more. I like that you don't have a verb box at the bottom taking up a bunch of the screen. So this is a game I put on the fall list. As all games on the fall list go, we'll see if people actually review it and if people actually like it. It could be good, it could be bad. It's without seeing reviews, you don't know. It's discounted right now at $5.09, which is not terrible, but it doesn't have full English audio, which I'd like to see all point-and-click adventure games have full audio in at least their native language, whether that's English or something else. But Seems like that probably is something that won't be happening for a while. Let's see. Next, we have a game on Steam called Keika, K-E-I-K-A, a puzzle adventure. Let's see. Seems to me like this is a Lemmings style game where you change the platforms and that might affect things. Yeah, this seems to me to be just a Lemmings clone. I can't imagine I would want to play this over just playing a Lemmings game. And honestly, I don't think Lemmings is that good of a game, a concept in general. And there's this other game called Ioka Lost Souls. This is 89 cents discounted, English only. I want to see what this other game actually is. Adventure platforming game with the exact same art assets. Came out in February of 2019, and you can see only 6 verified purchases reviewed the game, so it's so irrelevant as far as the game is that it doesn't matter if it's good or not. Nobody's ever going to hear about it. Nobody's ever going to play it. So yeah, Kika not making it to the fall list. Let's play one game. Didn't get the opportunity to finish playing all of the priest cards though, because he conceded almost immediately. Next we have a game on Steam called Monsters of Little Haven, which is tagged as a visual novel, but clearly it's a Western visual novel, and it's black and white, and it very possibly is just a few screenshots like this. Yeah, I don't know if this is really a game or if this is just a slideshow. And what they're showing you in the trailer doesn't really confirm one or the other. They're asking for a pretty high price at $10.39 discounted. It's English and Russian, which that raises a bit of a red flag, no pun intended, about whether this might be a low effort game or a very low effort game. It doesn't look like they put enough effort in the trailer. I'll put this on the follow list, but almost certainly this is going to get reviewed poorly later on. I think people will not be satisfied with the product. And I don't know particularly why you have a colored image here and then every screenshot here is in black and white. And I don't know why you would price your game that high. If it was an extremely good visual novel, I could understand a $10, even a $30 price tag on a visual novel. But I don't think it's that good. Normally I'm expecting to pay $5 or less for a visual novel. And you're getting...
Is someone injured?
If you can pay that price, you're getting a pretty good deal because you're getting a lot of time that you'll have to spend to play the game, but you're also not getting a very good deal because you're not getting a lot of animation or any animation. So visual novels are always just weird in their pricing metric. They're always a little too expensive for what they offer.
Right away. Right away.
Next we have a game on Steam called This Is Space, which looks like it's just a low effort physics asset flip game. Seems like you're just floating around space and really not doing anything else. Yeah, I don't see a real gameplay here. And I definitely don't like the gray texture in the background. $6.99 discounted, English only. Yeah, this does not impress.
sustains me.
Right away. Right away.
Unity, precision, perfection.
See, next we have an article here on Gamatsu. Date Live Rio Reincarnation third character / system trailer / some screenshots have been out. So this is a Japanese visual novel, most visual novels being Japanese ones. We've actually covered quite a few that weren't Japanese today. And they've got some new screenshots from Idea Factory to catch your interest. This is an M-rated game, so I probably shouldn't watch this trailer though, come to think of it. I'll just give a brief synopsis of what the trailer shows. I bet the trailer doesn't show anything. Yeah, it's just showing a bunch of anime characters. It does show off the live 2D system, so let me play that for a second. And
Do you like to play with fire?
Right away.
okay, so on this trailer, this is kind of the live 2D system.
Defend the gates.
It stretches the image and just sways it back and forth. So this is a modeled in a computer 2D animation of a character, but then it can recognize, oh, this is a bit of hair, so it could swing this way and it can swing that way, and it makes something like this, which are just still stationary images. It gives them bits of motion and adds blinking and things like that, so that it feels a little bit more interactive. I think the live 2D software is really revolutionizing visual novels, so it's weird to see that game Haven not use that. Most visual novels up until this point, you would be just staring at a stationary image and reading the text, and you would spend a good 5 minutes just reading text, looking at the same image. And sometimes they'd get fancy and they'd switch every 3 lines of dialogue to a different stationary image, and that would help a little bit, but not by much. As for Date Live as a game, it's probably gonna Date Live Rio Reincarnation is the actual title. It's probably gonna be a fine. It's probably the third game in a series of visual novels, but they're not so popular that off the top of my head I recognize it. I recognize the name, but that's kind of it.
I just want some peace and quiet.
She's here.
Let's see. Gamatsu has an article. Falcom teases modern ports of The Legend of Heroes Zero no Keiseki and Ao no Keiseki. So Western ports of somewhat well-received Japanese games are always welcome, and we're starting to see more and more of that. In part, I think this is with the degrading relationship between Japanese developers and Sony PlayStation. They're starting to say, hey, let's make Western ports for the Switch, or let's make Western ports for the even Xbox or PC. Originally, this first launched on the PlayStation Portable. With the elimination of the PlayStation Portable, a lot of developers have nowhere to go but to Switch, and now the Switch Lite, which I haven't talked about so far today, but just as today, the Nintendo has announced its smaller Switch Lite. It seems there's been rumors for a long time that was going to happen, and I want to double check to make sure it actually has been confirmed this time. But yeah, the Nintendo Switch is too expensive as an entry-level console. A Switch Lite makes a lot of sense to everybody involved. Let's do that. And see if we can take our victory. I don't know why he decided to leave. But since I was going to take the victory and move on anyways. So we only need to play one more game, but we might as well, while we're doing this, play a Shaman and Warlock card deck. Let's play Zoo Warlock for the fun of it. TechRaptor has an article here. GameStop wants to be a community hub for gamers. I don't think that's gonna work. The number one thing I take from GameStops since the last time I walked in them is they're not very welcoming places. You either have a bunch of kids running around that you don't really want to deal with because they're younger than you, or a bunch of older people, if you're a kid, that don't want to deal with you. You've got these sleazy salesmen and trying to push used games and protection plans on you. You've got a small, cramped, not particularly clean environment, although generally speaking they're not filthy at GameStops. It just never felt like you were too welcome there. A lot of people that when I went to GameStops would try to talk to me and size me up as like, are you a real gamer or you're not a gamer at all? Are you good enough to be considered a gamer? And it just had this form of bravado that I really didn't appreciate. Or they would just try and talk to me and I just didn't want to talk. In general, if I'm going into GameStop, I just want to get a game and leave and go play the game. I don't want to try and become friends with people. Now, I could see GameStop reevaluating if there was anybody at the top who was competent, who could run GameStop, which I don't think there actually is anybody at the top who's competent who can run GameStop. But I could see turning it into a comic book type store, geek store, where there's people playing Dungeons and Dragons in the back, and you've got like Magic the Gathering cards and things like that, and you have like board games, and then there's like a family friendly section where all the kids go, and then on the other side of a big space you have more of the slightly more adult games, like Dungeons and Dragons, things that some parents might not want their kids playing for stupid old reasons that are still around today. But GameStops have always prided themselves about being very, very small, so you really don't have room for any of that. And yeah, you'd have to totally change it. They could have done that, certainly, if GameStop had bought Toys R Us. But inherently, this is an article of somebody from GameStop trying to throw out an idea that's not going to sell and not going to work. And we all know where GameStop is heading. They're going to go bankrupt. And I think that's the intention. And then there will be some new company that steps up and buys them and tries something different. It's almost plans that the GameStop will go bankrupt as Toys R Us comes out of bankruptcy and reestablishes places. Or, you know, Amazon.com or digital services or Target or any number of other companies like Walmart could expand their game selections quite there is something nice about a GameStop being focused on video games, so that if you're trying to take your kid to, say, Walmart to get groceries, they're not running over to the Walmart section that has video games, because if you're broke and you can't afford that, you don't want them throwing a fit because they're not getting that. And inherently, if you've ever been into a Walmart, you've almost certainly heard a child throwing a fit because they can't get some kind of toy or video game because the parent was just there to get food. And that's where we've seen a slight rise in neighborhood Walmarts and Walmarts that specifically are not supercenters and just sell food and products like and household products, and get away from the toy section and the video game section. So I could see Walmart buying a lot of GameStop locations and then just running them themselves. I could also see Amazon.com doing that same thing easily enough. I guess we'll just stay with Warlock and play a little ranked. I somehow got all of the daily quests done faster than I got all the news done, so let's just try to burn through the news real quick. Gamatsu has an article. Nintendo Switch Online adds Donkey Kong 3, Wrecking Crew, and a rewind feature. You can now rewind gameplay by holding the Z left and Z right. These are features that are in most emulators, and all these games on the Nintendo Switch Online are just being emulated almost certainly by some kind of emulator that is open source. Wrecking Crew is slightly interesting because it's a lesser known game. Wrecking Crew, I think, is the game that the Wreck-It Ralph is kind of based on, which you would kind of think, oh no, Wreck-It Ralph is totally a game that a fake arcade game that never existed. But yeah, there was an NES game called Wreck-It Crew that looks a lot like Mario, but you're only getting 2 games this time, whereas previous instances you've gotten 3 games. So instead of getting a 3rd game for Nintendo Switch Online, you're getting the rewind function, which is not comparable. The Nintendo Switch Online, even though it's a cheap offering, it's not a very good offering still. They really should have said, here's 100 games we've got ready to go right now on day one, and launched with a huge selection instead of trying to trickle out these old NES games. Next we have a game on Steam called Emoji Charades, which there might be something to this, but it's local multiplayer, and I think you play with your cell phone. So this is like a really simplistic programmed game. Let's see. It's discounted to $7.99. It's pre-release. It's multiplayer only. I don't cover multiplayer games. I really don't see a reason why you need to pay $8 to play a game like this when you could just play charades with a pen and paper and draw emojis, and you could make a special rule saying that you can only draw emojis easier than paying $8 to have a game around that concept. Gamatsu has an article here. Dr. Mario World is now available on smartphones around the world. From what I've heard, it costs like $5 to get an hour of uninterrupted entertainment out of it, and apparently people don't really even think it's worth 5 minutes of playing. I don't know how you couldn't have a Tetris game like Dr. Mario be more well received and entertaining, but apparently not. I've heard very little reports of people talking about it, and from the one person I did hear talking about it, they weren't really satisfied. So that's weird. Super Mario Run was kind of in the exact same position where because it was free to start, you played that free section and then you were kind of done with it. It wasn't that interesting or entertaining. I really don't feel like the A-Team is making good games for Nintendo as far as mobile goes. And with the announcement of the Switch Lite, you can see that there's no real focus here to release a how do I say this? There's no real focus to move all of the games that were going to the Nintendo 3DS over to mobile. People were making the argument that yes, the Switch was going to be the console for Nintendo and mobile was going to be the portable handheld for Nintendo. I think now it's pretty obvious that the Switch Lite is going to be the portable handheld, and the Switch proper, which may get an upgrade at some point, is going to be the console version. I feel like I'm overhyping this game by reporting on this, but Azure Lane Crosswave adds support characters Aoba, Shirasuya, and Rodney. This is the anime World of Warships game where the anime characters represent battleships. So, yeah. They're adding more and more characters and building the hype for Azure Lane Crosswave. There's several Azure Lane games as far as I understand it. Alright, this is almost certainly an explosive trap. Oh, it really wasn't. Interesting.
Put this apple on your head.
Just draw a card. Let's see, next we have a game on Steam here called Narwhal Heist, which seems to be maybe an asset flip game. Looks like it's a platformer of some sort. Are you playing as a narwhal? It seems like you are, and it doesn't seem like that's you can see the horn is actually clipping through the shopping cart. They didn't even bother to not show that in the trailer. Yeah, this is some kind of weird platforming / stealth game that's probably all asset flips, where you play as a narwhal for no reason. And the narwhal meme, I think, happened like 2 or 3 years ago. It's early access, $4.24, English only. I see nothing here that would interest me or make me want to put this on the follow list. See that.
Why do you call?
And that. Gamma Sutra has an article here. Beat Saber developer Beat Games shuffles the leadership as the CEO steps down. So I'm going to say you could read this article if you want to know the exact details, but Beat Saber probably, if I was to guess, has hit peak success. I don't see a chance there that they're going to make a Beat Saber 2 and that's going to really work or succeed in any real way. So they're probably going to start laying off people and just taking the stock options out and running. That's probably what the CEO is doing, if I was to guess. But who knows? It's a little inside baseball anyways. Game of chose another article. Former Riot and EA devs form a new multiplayer studio called Vela Games. Now, Riot and EA devs leaving EA is probably considered a good idea. That doesn't inherently, though, tell me that they're going to be successful just because of that. It's based in Dublin, Ireland, I guess. This is another announcement coming 2 weeks after E3. Or a couple weeks after E3, maybe not exactly 2 weeks.
This was not my contract.
Almost out of time.
It actually was quietly founded back in 2018 and has already raised $3.82 million money in seed funding. The studio is looking to make their first original title and are also committed to building a company culture that avoids harmful working practices, aka crunch and such. Alright, good. Like, I don't inherently knee-jerk at the idea that maybe just through evolution and selective breeding of corporations, we can have corporations that are bad about their work practices be abandoned and new corporations formed on the promises of doing better. That's certainly something we don't generally see in the United States. Instead, we see the exact opposite, where they just get worse and worse over time. And a lot of that really is just antitrust stuff. Antitrust actions should be enacted a lot more in the United States. They should break up corporations. If you just break up the corporations, it could cause trouble. It could add to some shenanigans, but it also could just mitigate some of the problems. Because inherently, the assumption here is that there are jerks in management, and it's the jerks in management that are enacting these policies. Eventually, you run out of jerks. Hopefully, that would be the hope. So if you break up companies, you'll eventually have to have at least one company with a nice guy running the company. At least that would be your hope. I don't know if it's true or not. It really is more of a sentiment in my mind of we should just try something, anything, and particularly in video game worlds. Although it still is just the same cronyism. It's like when friends that worked together at EA and Riot Games go to start a new company, they're still not bringing in any much fresh blood from recent graduate lists or, indie developers who've made their own games but never worked for big companies. So there's cronyism is still a major issue in the video game industry, and really needs to be tackled and addressed. And inherently, if the video game industry did properly unionize, some of the cronyism would go away, but not a lot, because cronyism could always happen at the management level where the union would not be paying attention or care about, and that's usually where it happens anyways. So yeah,
Let's do this.
that still would be an issue. Moving on, Gamasutra has an article here. Nintendo, the 3DS isn't about to be replaced by the Switch Lite. Nintendo just unveiled the Switch Lite, a more compact version of the flagship Switch that also happens to be a dedicated handheld. which I guess means it doesn't plug into the dock, and I don't think the controllers come off the sides, and I think it has an actual D-pad instead of buttons on the left side. They're saying they're going to, quote, continue to support the 3DS family. They always say that until they stop saying it. It's not really true. The 3DS is dead. You'd still be perfectly fine, I think, to buy a 3DS used for a kid these days, or you wouldn't be making a huge mistake. There will be used games for the 3DS for a good decade that you can get cheap. So just think of it as this is the used old console, whereas the Switch Lite will be the thing that people are going to ask for, kids are going to ask for Christmas. Or they're going to ask for a Switch, and then the parents are going to get tricked into buying the Switch Lite in a lot of instances. Or they're going to ask for a Switch Lite, and then the parents are going to get upsold to buy the regular Switch. But there is still the thought that the Switch proper is going to get an upgrade, so it's probably about the worst time to buy a regular Switch. So here, Gamma Sutra has the compact Switch Lite, is Nintendo's newest dedicated handheld. You can see it seems to me like the whole thing is just connected, and there's a D-pad here, and so it's just a Microsoft layout of buttons for the most part, although the home button is down there. It's a full body item, and it has like a USB C port to charge it, but apparently it won't dock, so why are they showing the docked Switch with the disconnected controllers? Yeah, they had to add to that video. I kind of feel like its screen has to be smaller. Like I don't see how you don't have that be part of it. Let's see. The article goes on, the absence of Joy-Cons means the Switch doesn't pack the IR motion camera or the HD rumble features. They rely heavily on motion controllers. Games that rely heavily on motion controls like 1-2 Switch won't be compatible with the new console unless you connect separate Joy-Cons. Also comes with a slightly smaller 5.5 inch touchscreen with a resolution of 1280 by 720 and is 123 grams lighter. It's going to retail for $200 instead of $250. Frankly, if you're spending $200 anyways, you might as well spend the extra and get the regular Switch, because you're gonna spend an extra $50 on Joy-Cons eventually. Although Gamma Sutra is saying it's actually at $200 cheaper. It's $100 cheaper, which I don't know what prices they're looking at. I've always seen the Switch at $250, not $300. Maybe they've got some bundle or something. Let's see. We're gonna have to play one more game, so I'm just gonna move over here to Murloc Shaman. So it's a middle ground, mushy middle product that, frankly, if I was in charge, I would not have let be released in that way. It's missing features that should be there, and I can get the part that the Joy-Cons don't come off. I don't get the part that there isn't some kind of HD rumble in there or something you could call HD rumble. I don't get the part that there isn't an IR tracking of some sort. The Switch Lite is effectively the same tablet as what the Wii U tablet was. So they've really just, in a long way, gone in circles to try and sell us the same thing we didn't buy when the Wii U was out. That's not really what I'm looking forward. Not what I want to see from Nintendo. I want to see them push things forward, not work their way or weasel their way backwards. Moving on, TechRaptor has an article. Dry drowning has a tale worth sinking into. Dry drowning, by the way, the phrase is when somebody drowns and then because you didn't take them to the ER like you should. If somebody looks like they're drowning or anything like that, you should immediately take them to the ER, because even though they may look fine later, they are in an extremely high chance of dry drowning and drowning in the next 48 hours. Happens all the time. I can't remember the explanation for it, but it has something to do with like the damage of your lungs because there was water in it. Anyways, this game, Dry Drowning, is a visual novel of some sort that looks like it's kind of a horror game. And it's definitely a Western visual novel. Feels supernatural and horror in its themes. Alright. This game will launch on PC and Xbox One. It'll launch on PC in August and Xbox One in 2020. Might be an interesting adventure-style visual novel. I don't think I'd call it a pure... Well, who knows? Maybe it is a pure visual novel. Of course, inherently that is a hype article written by TechRaptor because they got a free copy from the developers. So it's really just a advertisement. You really don't need to know anything or too much about a game. You just kind of need to know the name, the general concept around it, and when it's coming out. And frankly, if you're careful enough, you can ignore all announcements about a game until it's actually out, and then get all of the information you need rather quickly. Let's see. Gamatsu has an article. Dusk Diver for the PS4 Switch launches October 24th in Japan. Dusk Diver rated Sero B. Let's see. What kind of game is it? It's from P-Cubed. It's probably a dungeon crawler, if I was to guess. There's no video, or there's some screenshots down here I could look at, but... It's an action-oriented, dynamic action-oriented combat system, so that sounds like a RPG or dungeon crawler. Okay. So, not a lot of facts that I could squeeze out of that. Let's see this. That and that. TechRaptor has the same article. Surreal adventure game Vane is coming to PC in via Steam in July of 2019. You know what? We're halfway through the week. If we can make it to Friday without any annoying story about Epic Games Store, that would be probably the first week since they came out with their store that somebody hasn't found something to complain about on it. Moving on, Gamatsu has an article here. Amazon Game Studios announces a free-to-play Lord of the Rings MMO for console and PC. Are people who gonna play this though is the question. Well, are you gonna leave World of Warcraft if you've been playing it for decades? Are you gonna leave playing The Elder Scrolls Online or Final Fantasy Dissidia to play the Lord of the Rings game? Or is anybody new going to be added to that list? Because I think the answer is probably no. I just don't think MMOs can succeed these days. Yeah, at this point I think I'm just gonna stop playing Hearthstone and focus on wrapping up because power's flickered in this house several times. TechRaptor has an article here. Seal Fledge lets you raise your kick-ass daughter, coming to Steam and Switch. This is the game we already looked at, the daughter raising simulator. Yeah, I'm interested in it. I would like to see the reviews of it. It might be an interesting counterpoint to something like the Princess Maker series, but I'm also a little cautiously optimistic about it because the graphics don't look that good. TechRaptor had the same article about the Nintendo Switch Online getting the rewind feature and 2 new games. We don't need to talk about that. We have a game here on Steam called Lab Defense, which is kind of just a simplistic top-down twin-stick shooter in a generic environment. Doesn't look that interesting. 59 cents discounted. Supports a bunch of languages. That's not going to make it to the fall list. Next, we have a game on Steam here called Godhood that's already mixed in reviews. It's a god simulator game where it's like a Aztecian style game. I'll put this on the follow list because if it comes out of early access, it might be interesting and it might get better reviewed, but it's really not doing a great job. So probably in about 5 minutes or maybe in 11 months, I'm gonna do another follow list cleanup, and at that point this would have had at least 6 months to look at it, or a few months. Well, actually, I guess I need to reevaluate how I would do that. I want to give everything 6 months. So I'll put this on the follow list to give it at least 6 months to improve, but I imagine it probably won't. It's asking $24.29 right now, discounted. That is a high price. And there's kind of a supporter edition upgrade DLC, so it seems like there might have been a Kickstarter behind all of this too. But yeah, I'll give it a chance because it's a unique looking style of gameplay. Next, we have a game on Steam here called Dragon Call, which is tagged as a strategy casual game. This looks like this is probably a Chinese game if I was to guess. Looks like it's a card battling game. And inherently, a lot of these Chinese games just have a ton of text all over the screen. Yeah. I don't find this particularly an impressive looking card game or an impressive looking game that I could play. It's early access. English is not supported at all. It is simplified Chinese. $7.39. Yeah. I wouldn't call this a low effort Chinese game by any means. They're trying here. It's just they don't really have a great point of reference to make great games, and kind of is nice to see that actually the video game industry has over the decades improved in this quality of game development. So you can't just have people who have spent the last 30 years not involved in game development come out of nowhere and do better, or do as good as the people who have been spending the last 30-40 years developing games. Next we have this game on Steam called Commando Dog, which looks like it's an asset flip top-down twin-stick shooter. The art style here is just really inconsistent, and it turns my interest completely off. Like, this thumbnail does not match this dungeon crawler Diablo look. This dog on the screen does not match. It's $1.19 discounted, and it supports a bunch of languages. Yeah, it's just probably a joke game, maybe a troll game. And see, when the fire festival happens, every few seconds you get this swoosh of fire that plays a sound effect. See, speaking of joke games, we have Attack of the Evil Poop, which is probably an asset flip game. Looks like it might be an on-rails shooter. Is this a VR game? No, it doesn't support VR. So, this is just not something I think I'd want to play for more than a 5-minute joke. And clearly that's all this is designed to be, is a 5-minute joke that, in the hopes that somebody like PewDiePie would cover on YouTube. It's $8.09 discounted, and I just don't see the quality there. Third-party end-user license agreement for no reason. So Attack of the Evil Poop not making it to the follow list. Let's see, Gamatsu has an article here. The new Yakuza game starring Ichiban Kasuga cast Eri Kamataki as the female co-star. More details are coming August 29th. They did a whole contest basically to find a new female voice co-star for this game. It's weird, but I guess Yakuza is a big title in Japan, so being the voice actress in a big video game title does potentially skyrocket your career somewhat. Let's see. Gamatsu has an article here. Super Real Mahjong Graffiti port in development, likely for the Switch. Seems like all of the Super Mahjong games and these old 80s Mahjong games with the old 80s anime style, which I kind of miss. I would like to see it more. Are getting ported to the Nintendo eShop. No real surprise why. It works pretty well. Let's see. This would apparently be a bundle of Super Real Mahjong P2, P3, and P4. But yeah, that's not anything really that I think Westerners would really want to play, other than maybe me. I like 4-player Mahjong, but it's hard to remember the right phrases to say and explain it. I know how to play it, and I know what the symbols look like, but I can't particularly tell you what the words mean. Next we have a game on Steam here called Wrath of the Samurai, that in this first cutscene you see him running down a area, and then you have a samurai guy that you slash once and dies, and then the exact same samurai guy that you slash once and dies, and the exact same samurai guy that you slash once and dies. It doesn't look like it's particularly interesting. It seems like this is a low effort, not varied enough game. They're covering their faces so that you don't have to see it. This looks like this might be a VR game. Yeah. Early access VR game for $19.99. English only. If you're gonna make a game where you play as a samurai, then why not have Japanese language supported? And why was there just a sequence here where you're chopping up a still stationary female character and you chop off her head? I don't think decapitation is allowed to be showed in Japanese games, actually, come to think of it. Rated M for no reason. Or they made the game M-rated. It's rated M for a reason, but there's no reason this game should be rated mature if this is a VR game where you're going to play as a samurai. I have no idea what this boat part has to do with anything. Yeah, just seems low effort. So it's not going to make it to the fall list. We just have a few more tabs. We haven't seen any adult games on Steam in a while. So here's what's probably a Chinese visual novel game called Make Butter Together. It's not tagged with anything like nudity or sexual content. So this probably is just a simplistic Chinese visual novel. Although it might be Japanese because there's a lot of characters and the animation style doesn't actually look bad. English was not supported, $4.89. What language is it? Chinese. Alright, well, here's a plausible Chinese developer that can actually animate things, whereas a lot of Chinese visual novels don't show any of the characters and just show the background art as if that's going to be a major selling point. Yeah. I guess at the end of next week, if I haven't seen any adult games on Steam, it would be time to start getting worried again, but I wouldn't worry about it too much. It seems like they come and go in batches, and they clearly are getting some level of scrutiny, and they tend to only come out on Fridays. Let's see, Gamma Sutra has an article here. Get a job, Hi-Res Studios is hiring an FX artist. That's in Alpharetta, Georgia. And let's see, just about 3 more things. Gamatsu has an article here. Tabagoro Super Monkey Ball has been rated for the PS4, Switch, and PC in Taiwan. So this might be a new Super Monkey Ball game, or this might be a bundle of old Super Monkey Ball games. We don't really know, I guess. Gamma Sutra has an article here. RuneScape developer Jagex has been sold by the parent company for $530 million. So the Chinese company Fukong Interactive has sold the entirety of its stake in RuneScape developer Jagex. I wonder if that means now that Jagex is outside of Chinese control. Apparently the rumor here, I guess, is US Platinum Fortune bought them, and that it says the sale was necessary to pay down debt accrued by the parent company. So yeah, maybe we'll see somebody be a better curator of the RuneScape series in the new RuneScape game, maybe, but I wouldn't really hold your breath. And then we have a final article today. Gamma Sutra has an article. New executive directors have been named both for the IGDA and the IGDA Foundation. I don't know why there's a difference between the IGDA and the IGDA Foundation. This is the International Game Developers Association, which might actually be part of the Informer group that owns Gamma Sutra, or not. But yeah, a little inside baseball. Somebody stepped down and left some vacancies in April. They've hired some new people. Otherwise, I'm not sure how useful or powerful or influential the IGDA actually is. And that brings me to the Humble Bundle. And I'll see if there's any new games bundles worth mentioning. No, the only games bundle still is the PlayStation Games Bundle, which then that will bring me back to 19 new tweets that happened during this stream. And I'll look and see if there's anything that absolutely needs to be mentioned today versus Friday, when we'll just cover more news on Friday. Double Fine's game Rad is coming out pretty soon, and since Double Fine is now owned by Microsoft, it'll be interesting to see how they take it when Rad comes out and not too many people are interested in it, which I assume is how the story is going to go. I can't imagine it happening any other way. Yeah. I guess Microsoft probably doesn't care though, because their main intention here is to make Double Fine release Psychonauts 2 and that be an actual success. It would only be, I guess, a little bit of extra incentive if Rad actually succeeded. And Rad could succeed, but it's such a weird story and such a weird looking game that I really don't believe it will. Yeah, and I am at the end of my Twitter feed, so there's nothing new. It seems to me like my chat at no point worked, and I noticed that the chat warning is at the bottom here, so maybe I need to work on chat again, but I'll probably put that off for a couple days. That's gonna be it for the stream. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. If you want to further follow me on any social media sites, there's a whole bunch of links down below in the description box. And if you want to support me even further, there's a link to Patreon, or you can friend me on Steam and gift me a game off my wish list. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.